Hey everyone, welcome back to the English Connect podcast, the place where we learn English through real, honest, human conversations. I'm your host, Sophia, and I'm here with my co-host, Jason.
Hey, Sophia. Hey, everyone. I'll be real with you. I wasn't sure how I was going to show up today.
Tell me.
So, my dad has been in the hospital this week. Nothing immediately life-threatening, but scary. And I've been running on very little sleep, a lot of worry, and about 3 too many cups of bad coffee.
Jason, I'm so sorry. How are you actually doing?
Honestly, I've been in that place where everything feels heavier than normal. Like the world kept moving and I just couldn't keep up with it. You know that feeling?
I know it deeply, and I think everyone listening right now either knows it, is in it right now, or is heading toward it at some point. Because that's the thing about hard seasons. They are not optional. They come for everyone.
And somehow knowing that doesn't always make it easier when you're in the middle of it.
No, it doesn't. But I think what can make it easier, not easy, but easier, is what we remember in those moments. The things we hold on to. The truths that don't leave you even when everything else feels uncertain.
Which is exactly what today is about.
Exactly. Today's episode is not about toxic positivity. We're not going to tell you to just look on the bright side or that everything happens for a reason. We're going to have a real conversation about what actually helps when life gets hard, what's true, what endures, what to remember when you've forgotten almost everything else.
This might be the most important conversation we've had on this show.
I think so too. So here's what we have for you. First, Jason and I are going to have a genuine, unfiltered conversation about hard seasons, why they break us, what we lose, and what we discover. Then we'll break down 5 vocabulary words to grow your English, and we'll close with something we want you to carry with you long after this episode ends.
Before we begin, if you've ever needed a podcast episode at exactly the right moment, this might be that episode for someone you know. Please share it. You never know who is struggling quietly right now.
And subscribe if you haven't yet, so you never miss a conversation. All right, let's go somewhere real today. Jason, let's start where it's hardest to start. When life gets genuinely difficult, not inconvenient, not uncomfortable, but genuinely hard, what actually happens to us?
I think the first thing that happens is disorientation. Like you had a version of your life in your head, a plan, a rhythm, an identity even, and then something happens and all of that just dissolves.
Yes, and we're not prepared for that dissolution, are we? We think of hard times as problems to be solved, but some of them aren't problems. They're just pain that has to be lived through.
And nobody teaches you that. Growing up, the message is always fix it, solve it, push through. But what if there's nothing to fix? What if it's just grief or loss, or a season of life that is simply hard?
Then we feel like we're failing at the very experience of suffering.
Right, like I caught myself this week thinking, I should be handling this better. My dad is in the hospital and I'm judging myself for being sad.
That's so human, Jason, and so heartbreaking that we carry not just the pain, but the shame of the pain.
As if sadness is a character flaw.
And it's not. It's evidence of love. You're scared because you love your dad. The fear and the love are the same thing.
I hadn't framed it that way.
I think that's actually the first thing worth remembering when life gets hard. Your pain is not a weakness. It is a measure of how fully you have loved, invested, cared, and shown up for your life. People who feel nothing when things fall apart haven't necessarily developed strength. They've often just disconnected.
So feeling it is actually the braver choice?
I believe so. To feel it fully, to let it move through you instead of around you, that takes enormous courage.
But it also takes so much out of you. I feel genuinely depleted this week in a way I haven't in a long time.
Tell me more about that. What does depleted actually feel like for you?
It's like, you know how your phone gets to 4% battery and it starts behaving strangely? Apps close by themselves, the screen gets dim, it can barely do the things it normally does effortlessly?
Yes.
That's what I feel like. Like I'm at 4%. I'm still functioning, technically, still showing up, but everything takes 3 times as much effort, and I'm one notification away from shutting down.
That image is so vivid and so relatable. And here's something I want to say to everyone who is at 4% right now. 4% is still something. You are still here. You are still going. And that matters more than you know.
I think we forget that, especially in a culture that glorifies productivity and resilience. We measure ourselves against our best days, even when we're having our worst ones.
And that comparison is so unfair to ourselves. You wouldn't look at someone recovering from surgery and say, "Why aren't you running as fast as you were last month?" But we do that to ourselves emotionally all the time.
All the time, we expect emotional recovery to be linear and immediate.
But it's not. It's messy. It doubles back. You think you're fine, and then a song comes on, and you're not fine at all. And that's not regression. That's just how grief and hardship actually work.
So what do you hold on to? When you're in the middle of a hard season and you can't see the end of it, what do you remember?
The first thing I come back to, and this sounds almost too simple, is that hard seasons end. Every single one, without exception.
But when you're in one, you can't feel that truth. You know it intellectually, but it doesn't reach you emotionally.
You're right. And I think that's because when we're in pain, we lose our sense of time. The present feels like forever. But when I look back at every difficult season in my life, and I've had some really dark ones, every single one eventually shifted.
Can I ask, what's been the hardest season you've personally been through, if you're willing to share?
Yeah, I'll share this. A few years ago, I went through a period where I lost my job and ended a long relationship in the same month. And I remember sitting in my apartment one evening, looking at the walls, genuinely not knowing who I was anymore without those 2 things I had defined myself by.
That's a total identity collapse.
That's exactly what it was. And I remember thinking, I don't know how I get from here to okay. Not even great, just okay felt unreachable.
But you did.
I did. And here's the strange thing, not despite that season, but through it, because losing everything I had defined myself by forced me to find out what was underneath, who I was when no title or relationship was propping me up.
And who was that?
Someone more resilient, more honest, and more herself than the person who walked into that season. I wouldn't trade what I learned for anything, even though I would never want to go through it again.
That's such an important distinction. You wouldn't want to repeat it, but you also wouldn't undo what it gave you.
Because the 2 things are inseparable, the loss and the growth. You can't get one without the other.
This connects to something I've been thinking about a lot this week. I keep coming back to this idea that hardship is not a detour from your real life. It is your real life. It's part of the route, not an obstacle to it.
Say more about that, because I think people really need to hear it.
Okay, so we have this image of life as a straight road, and hard things are these terrible diversions that knock us off course. But what if the road was always supposed to go through those places? What if the valleys aren't detours? What if they're destinations in themselves, places you were always going to pass through because that's just what it means to be a person living a real life?
And the valley changes you in ways the mountain never could.
Exactly. You learn things in low places that you simply cannot learn anywhere else. Empathy, endurance, humility, a deeper gratitude for ordinary good days.
I remember after my difficult season, the first morning I woke up and just felt normal, I cried. Not from sadness, but from pure gratitude for the feeling of an ordinary morning.
You had never noticed how good ordinary felt before.
Never. I had taken it completely for granted, and I don't anymore. And I genuinely believe I wouldn't have that awareness, that appreciation, without having lost it first.
So the hard season gave you access to something you couldn't have accessed another way.
Yes, which brings me to the second thing I try to remember when life gets hard. This is not wasted time. Even when it feels like you're falling behind, falling apart, or standing still while everyone else moves forward, you are not being left behind. You are being shaped.
But it's so hard to believe that in the middle of it. Especially now with social media showing everyone's highlight reel, you're in the hospital waiting room and your feed is full of people getting promotions and going on vacations.
And that contrast is brutal. It's a particular cruelty of modern life.
You feel like the only person who is struggling.
But you're not. You are never the only one. And I think this is so important to say clearly. For every person with a perfect-looking life on your screen, there's a story behind the frame that you're not seeing. Pain is universal. It's just not always visible.
And paradoxically, the people who look the most put together publicly are sometimes the ones struggling the most privately.
Because they've learned to perform wellness, and that's exhausting in its own way.
So what do you do with that loneliness, the feeling of being alone in your pain?
I think you have to actively fight it by reaching toward other people. And I know that sounds obvious, but when you're in pain, the instinct is often to withdraw, to not want to be a burden, to wait until you're better to reconnect.
I definitely do that. I go quiet.
Most people do, but here's what I've learned. Being witnessed in your pain is one of the most healing things a human being can experience. You don't need someone to fix it, you need someone to sit with you in it.
Sit with you in it. That's a beautiful way to put it.
There's actually a concept in psychology called co-regulation, the idea that our nervous systems calm down in the presence of calm, safe people. You literally become more okay just from being near someone who cares about you.
So connection isn't just emotionally helpful, it's physiologically healing.
It is, which is why isolation and hard times makes everything harder, and why reaching out, even when every part of you wants to disappear, is an act of self-care, not weakness.
I'm gonna sit with that because I have genuinely not asked for enough help this week.
And that's okay. You're realizing it now, and the people who love you, they want to be asked.
Yeah, you're right. What else do you hold on to?
This one is perhaps the most counterintuitive thing I've learned about hard seasons. You don't have to feel strong. You just have to keep moving, even slowly, even at 4%.
What do you mean?
We put so much pressure on ourselves to feel brave, feel positive, feel resilient. But you don't have to feel any of those things to keep going. You just have to keep going. The feeling can come later.
So the action precedes the emotion?
In hard times especially, because you're not going to feel inspired or hopeful in the middle of a crisis. You might just feel like you're going through the motions, and that's enough. Going through the motions is enough.
That's so relieving to hear, because I've been telling myself I need to feel more positive, more okay, and I just don't. And I've been judging myself for not feeling it.
Stop judging the feeling. Feel what you feel, and then do the next small thing. Get up, drink water, make the call, go for a 10-minute walk. Not because it will fix everything, but because small actions in hard times are proof to yourself that you are still here and still capable of movement.
Small proof. I like that.
Small proof matters enormously when the big picture is overwhelming.
I want to talk about something that I think a lot of people feel, but are afraid to say. Sometimes when life gets really hard, you get angry, like genuinely deeply angry, at the situation, at the universe, at God if you believe in God, at the randomness and unfairness of it all.
Yes, and we need to talk about that because it often gets suppressed. People feel guilty for the anger.
Especially when others have it worse. There's always someone who has it worse, and that makes you feel like you don't have the right to your own pain.
But pain is not a competition. Your suffering doesn't need to earn a high enough score to count. If it hurts you, it's real. If it's real, it's valid.
And the anger?
The anger is often grief in disguise. You're angry because something was taken from you, a person, a version of your future, a sense of safety, a dream. And anger is how grief sometimes expresses itself when it's not yet safe to be sad.
So you shouldn't fight the anger?
You should respect it, understand it, and find a healthy channel for it. Exercise, writing, creating, talking to someone. Anger is energy, and energy can be redirected.
It can't just be bottled.
Never. Bottled anger becomes bitterness, and bitterness is the thing I'm most afraid of for people who go through hard seasons. Not the pain. The pain is temporary, but bitterness can become a permanent residence if you're not careful.
What's the difference between someone who comes through a hard season changed for the better and someone who comes through it bitter?
I've thought about this a lot, and I think it comes down to meaning, whether you find or choose to create some meaning from what happened.
Not everything has a neat meaning, though.
No, and I would never say it does. Some things are just tragic, but meaning isn't always about why something happened. Sometimes it's about what you decide to do with who you are after.
You can't always control the experience, but you can choose what you build from it.
Viktor Frankl, the psychologist who survived the Holocaust, wrote something that has never left me. He said that even in the most terrible circumstances, the last human freedom is the freedom to choose your attitude, not your feelings, not your circumstances, but your orientation toward them.
And that orientation, that choice, is the difference between being defined by your hardship and being refined by it.
Defined versus refined. That's it. That's everything.
How do you make that choice when you're in the middle of it and everything is dark?
You don't make it once. You make it every day. Sometimes every hour. Sometimes you make it and then you break it and then you make it again. That's not failure. That's the practice.
It's a practice, not a permanent state.
Exactly. Resilience isn't a characteristic some people have and others don't. It's a practice. It's something you return to, imperfectly and repeatedly for as long as it takes.
I find that genuinely hopeful, because be resilient as advice always felt like it was describing someone else. But keep returning to the practice of resilience. That I can do, imperfectly, on a bad day, at 4%.
At 4%. That counts. You count. And the last thing I want to say, and I mean this with my whole heart, to everyone listening right now who is in a hard season,
Please say it.
you will not always feel this way, not because the hard thing will necessarily go away or be resolved or make sense, but because you are not the same person you were a year ago, and you will not be the same person a year from now. You are always becoming, and becoming is possible even, especially in the dark.
Thank you for that, Sophia.
Thank you for being honest today, Jason. I hope your dad recovers quickly, and I hope you let yourself be taken care of this week.
I'm gonna try.
All right, everyone. Let's look at 5 words and phrases from today's conversation that will help you express deep and meaningful ideas in English.
First, disorientation.
Meaning, disorientation is the feeling of being confused, lost, or uncertain about where you are, who you are, or what is happening. It's the mental and emotional state of losing your bearings, your sense of direction, identity, or normalcy, often because something unexpected or destabilizing has occurred.
Example sentence. After losing her job of 12 years, she felt a deep disorientation. She'd defined herself through that work for so long that she didn't know who she was without it.
Number 2, resilience.
Meaning, resilience is the capacity to recover from difficulty, adapt to change, and keep going in the face of hardship. It's not the absence of pain or struggle, it's the ability to bend without permanently breaking and to find your way back to yourself after being knocked down.
Example sentence. What impressed everyone about her wasn't that she never struggled, it was her resilience, her ability to face setbacks and keep moving forward with honesty and grace.
Number 3, bitterness.
Meaning, bitterness is a prolonged, deep feeling of anger, resentment, or cynicism that develops when pain is not processed or released. Unlike grief, which moves through you, bitterness tends to stay, hardening a person's outlook and affecting their relationships and well-being long after the original wound.
Example sentence. He had every reason to be angry after the way he was treated, but he refused to let his pain curdle into bitterness. He chose to learn from it instead.
Number 4. Co-regulation.
Meaning, co-regulation is a psychological concept describing the way one person's calm, stable presence can help another person's nervous system settle and regulate. In simple terms, being near someone safe and grounded can genuinely make you feel more calm, not just emotionally, but physiologically. Our nervous systems actually respond to each other.
Example sentence. She didn't need advice, she just needed to sit with her best friend. That's the power of co-regulation. Sometimes presence is the most healing thing another person can offer.
And finally, number 5, refined, as we used it in the phrase defined versus refined.
Meaning, to be refined means to be improved, purified, or made more precise through a process, often a difficult one. When we say a person is refined by hardship, we mean the difficulty shaped them into a stronger, clearer, more developed version of themselves. To be defined by hardship, in contrast, means to be reduced to it, to let it become the whole story of who you are.
Example sentence. She came out of that period not defined by what she had lost, but refined by it, more compassionate, more grounded, and more sure of what truly mattered to her.
Jason, how are you feeling after that conversation?
Honestly, like I've been heard. And lighter. Not because anything has changed in my circumstances, my dad is still in the hospital, but something in me has shifted slightly.
That's what honesty does. That's what being witnessed does.
And I think that's what this podcast can be for people sometimes. Not answers, just accompaniment.
I love that word, accompaniment. You don't always need someone to solve it, you need someone to walk alongside you in it.
So here is what we're asking of you today. Not a challenge to do something external, just an internal one.
If you are in a hard season right now, whatever that looks like for you, we want you to do one thing. Name it, just to yourself, right now, silently or out loud.
Name what is hard. Not to fix it, not to solve it, just to stop pretending it isn't there.
Because the first act of surviving hard things is being honest that they are hard.
And then, if you feel moved to, come to the comments and share what you're carrying. You don't have to share details. You can just say, I'm in a hard season and I needed this today. And we'll be there.
Because community matters. You reading this or hearing this right now, you are not alone.
And if this episode reached you at exactly the right moment, please share it. Send it to one person who is struggling. It might be the most meaningful thing you do today.
If you're new here, welcome. Subscribe and stay. We talk about life and English and everything in between with honesty and without pretense.
Before we go, one final thought to carry with you.
Hard seasons are not proof that something is wrong with you or with your life. They are proof that you are a full human being, living a real life with a heart that is open enough to be broken. And that open heart, even when it hurts, is the bravest, most beautiful thing about you.
Hold on. Keep going. You are not alone.
This is Sophia.
And this is Jason.
Signing off from the English Connect podcast.
We'll see you next time. Take care of yourselves out there, and take care of each other.